Welcome to Beyond Your Wildest Imagination. This is a podcast about life after addiction, where we sit down with people from the Cowichan Valley who share their powerful stories about getting sober, staying sober, and how good life can get. This is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you haven't seen part 1, please go back and view that first. We're sitting down today with Kirby Freeman and Tony Lonsberry. They've both been on the show, but today we're in a men's group format talking about our feelings. So welcome back, guys.
Well, let's talk more about spirituality. All 3 of you have a deep spiritual practice. How does your spirituality support and guide your emotional self? And Tony, I noticed you were reaching for the mic as I started asking, so I hope that question serves what you were thinking of talking to, but please do feel free to go with whichever thought you had.
Yeah, I was just thinking, when I seen that God piece in the recovery program, I was thinking to myself, every time I was in a situation, and I've been in a lot of situations, I never prayed to anybody but God. It was, God, get me out of this. God, get me out of that. Oh, God, I won't do it again. And God, every time that would come, and I was, I wasn't raised in faith or nothing like that. So it was weird to me that came to my mind when I was in the most depths of my addiction and the most scariest situations. That's what I would pray to instantly. It would always come to my mouth and my mind. And, I knew there was something there that was going to get me out of my situation because everything around me had got me to where I was at. So there had to be something outside myself to get me out of it. And and I was thinking, I turned that around when I got into recovery. Like Kirby was saying, I put everything I had into my addiction and my substance. I would give it everything. I would drop everything I had. I would leave family, friends, jobs, everything for that substance. So that was my higher power for a lot of years. I tied to it. I sacrificed everything for it. And to turn that into something positive when I got into recovery, it just made my recovery thrive. I was in recovery for, about a decade before I even grasped any spirituality, and I suffered. I suffered big time. I didn't take it all in. I just took it in the community part and the giving back, but I wasn't getting nothing back out of it. I always felt really empty, and, I was still around a lot of people, and I would feel really alone all the time. And, I would get pleaded moments that I was okay and stuff, but I still felt really broken. And I heard this guy say one time about spiritual bankruptcy. And I think, that really resonated with me. And I was thinking, yeah, that's what I am. I was spiritually bankrupt. So I started looking into spiritualities, and I tried a few different things. And, there's just one that I picked up on was the Christianity one that I really fit in. And, and it's changed my life in every area of my life. In ways I think about myself, the way I feel about myself. And I don't have to have another person to feel and to talk back and forth, like with my prayer time. I've always got somebody there that can understand and listen, and I get lots out of it. And, I just, through my life, I've been in so many situations that I know it wasn't me getting them out of them, because every time I was driving what I was doing, I would end up in jail, a hospital, overdose, bad situations. So when I stopped doing that, and just kind of freely went with the process, I ended up in good situations. Life started opening doors and good things started happening. And, and as I went along, it was scary, because I felt so abnormal and I felt like I didn't fit into this normal life that I needed to. But I would pray about it and, let it happen. And yeah, life just started getting really, really good. And, even now, my spiritual practice is by far the biggest thing in my recovery that guides me, keeps me level. I'm able to give back a lot more. I like to help a lot of people. And if I didn't have that spiritual practice, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would be, I could probably help a handful of people. Then I would be so broken and so take all that stuff on, I wouldn't be able to give back. So I'm really vigilant about it. And, I think it's very important for me to maintain that. And I sponsor people in different things, and that's one of our biggest practices. We start with that, and everything filters through it, and we get good results. So it's got something's got to be working there, right?
So my spiritual practice is self-validating to some extent. So in talking with myself or talking to my higher power, I get answers, right? And those answers for me can come in the form of silence. They can come in the form of how the trees are looking or what's coming through for me at that moment that I see and feel inside. And I draw the wisdom from that, right? So it's a little bit challenging for me to describe accurately, but the validation that I'm seeking within myself is now, or not seeking, but finding within myself is now allowing for me to not seek others to validate myself. Yes, it's nice when it happens from others, but if I'm relying on it, I'm attached to it. And if it doesn't happen the way that I have played out with the attachment, I resent the person that didn't give me what I needed, right? Low key, high key, it just depends on the circumstance. So that doesn't create a balanced state within me. So seeking that on my own and finding a way to sit with myself and ask questions and feel what it's like to have these sensations in my body, feelings in my body, emotions, has been really powerful. And one thing that really was sitting with myself for extended periods of time that I learned is all emotional states are constantly changing. The sadness that I felt yesterday is different than the sadness that I feel today, right? So for me, it's awareness around the palette of emotional states that I'm feeling and finding different ways of expression. It's constantly, it's a dance for me to learn to express and be with myself. I feel is one of the most potent ways that I express, right? And there's different ways that I do this with my spiritual practice, through sitting in meditation, through breathing, through walking and connecting with nature, trees, and I'm now like zooming back to my younger self, and it's like, if I told myself that I would be talking to trees and like seeking wisdom from the land, I mean, that wasn't present to me. I would have thought that I was absolutely nuts. Like he's lost it, right? And it's so interesting. It's like, no, I have found it. I've found the truth that I've been seeking my whole life through faith, through my higher power, through me, which feels really empowering to say and to share. Yeah, I feel complete with that. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I totally relate to that piece. I mean, just recently I've come to talk to trees myself. And even me 10, 15 years ago, I would have been like, you're nuts. But so my spirituality for myself started actually before I went into the rooms. I ended up going into all Indigenous treatment facility. And there I learned, they had someone come in and we meditated. And the first time we lit a candle and we looked at the candle, and I vividly remember that. And I was like, what are we supposed to do? What do you mean, look at the candle? Okay, I know how to look at things. But it was like just breathing and looking, and it was a very new beginning there. And we also started doing yoga. And from there, I then started to listen to and read books by Eckhart Tolle and listen to Ram Dass, these spiritual teachers who, when I read what they were writing or listened to what they were saying, whoa, it resonated so deep with me. It was truth. It didn't matter what anybody said. It was speaking to me and to my soul. And I was like, they are speaking the truth. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care. Really, they are just the messenger of that word to me. And I was like, okay, I get it. And I latched onto that. And I've been listening or reading some sort of spiritual meditation or talk or book since that happened. And that was the beginning of my recovery. And through that, to your point, Kirby, how the sadness and the emotion of yesterday is not the same as today. Neither is my spirituality. It is fluid. It is moving. It is growing. I'm growing. And that for me is the most important piece in my journey of staying clean and becoming the best self that I can. I'm always learning, always growing, always moving forward. And my spirituality, like just thinking about it now, like I can see it in my head from those beginning points to where it's at now. Like what a beautiful process. And there's so much pain in there, but that I find that to be beautiful as well, because there's learnings. And for me, I see my spiritual practice as well. It's hard to define. I find it in going into icy cold waters. Yeah, it gets real quiet. And meditation and all forms of meditation too. Like I used to think there was only one way to meditate and you had to figure that out. But there's meditation for me, like if I'm being honest, my spiritual practice at first I thought was like ticking a box. I meditated today. Okay. And then you don't. And then you're like upset at yourself for not getting the thing done. Or you're sitting in that meditation and the time goes by and you tick it off. But did you get what you were looking for? Were you actually present? Were you sitting in there, or were you sitting in there so that you could get it done to tick the box? And that's really important. And so for my journey, I've come to learn that meditation is throughout the day. And spirituality is everywhere and in everything. It's in this conversation. It's in your cup of coffee in the morning. It's also in the hard bits when you're doing something you don't like and finding a breath of stillness and presence in yourself, noticing you don't like it, and maybe reaching out and touching something and feeling that texture and changing that moment for yourself, sitting in traffic and using it as an opportunity to find stillness while all the chaos is happening around you. And so that for me has been the biggest process for me. And I think God is in everything. And I think that my own personal thoughts on it is that everything is a projection of God. And I am also. And so it's everywhere, it's everything, and it's beautiful. Even the pain, the sorrow, everything that I've went through, the things that make me cry, the things I can't remember, it's all God. And I use the word God because for me, that is just what it's pointing to. But like, look at this planet. Look at the oceans and the trees, who I now talk to, right? For me, that's something that's come recently, where I've gone and sat in nature and talked while walking in nature. And it's a public forum here, but I'm feeling called to share this. I just recently, for whatever reason, had this burning desire in me to sing to the trees. And I, out of nowhere, was like, we were in a group setting and I was like, I have a song I have to sing. Okay. And it was ancestral, tribal, guttural. I don't know what it was. There was no words, but it was emotion, and it was my soul singing and vibrating, and it was me, but it wasn't me. It was God. It was just flowing through me. And I did that, and it shook the forest, and it shook me. And it was like, this breath of fresh air, like that. I've been waiting to do that. And upon doing that, I then created this relationship with the land. And that I could see the tree, and it spoke to me. And, that for me, 10, 15 years ago, I would have been like, you're nuts. You are cuckoo, buddy. What are you talking about? And seeing those things that happen on a daily basis and just trusting the process of life, and just like, it's a bit of a game, it's fun, it's beautiful, and it'll all work out. And if it doesn't, that'll work out too. Like, just trusting in myself. And like, that's the goal, right? I don't know if I actually do that every day, every moment. Like, that would be a really tall order. But for myself, I feel like I'm always striving to believe in myself and get quiet enough and curious enough to listen to those thoughts that are coming up. Because if you do get quiet enough, you will hear them and they will guide you in the right direction. But with the busyness of the mind, you can often cloud your decision making. And so I like to sit in stillness. Like, there's these meditations I listen to, but for me, the most powerful ones are in silence, because they're saying something, and it's great to learn all that, but you can learn as much knowledge as possible and be a spiritual teacher if you wanted to. But are you actually feeling it and having that spiritual experience? So for me, the biggest one is sitting in silence, wherever that is. But yeah, that's I can't believe I shared about the talking to the tree, but here we are.
Let's go back to developing your emotional selves as adult men and maturing through that process. How did you evolve from the early days when you first reconnected to your emotions to learning how to express yourself in healthy ways?
For me, grasping the concept that there were healthy ways to express challenging emotion was the biggest one. It's like, oh, I can express anger in a good way, right? I can be angry and accepted, right? So that was a huge shift for me, that like there's a healthy way to express and experience heavier emotions, right? So, and how, as an adult man, I feel called to share a practice for anger anyway. And it is to use my throat, use my voice, right? And to clear that way. And sometimes I'll go to the forest, I'll climb a mountain. I think this is a really powerful one, is climbing to the top of a mountain if I'm feeling frustrated or angry. And when I get to the peak, I will roar like a lion. I will yell, I will scream, I will curse. Whatever comes through for me in that moment, I'll let it out, right? And it is so healing for me. Oftentimes it'll start with anger, and it'll start with really like that really big emotion. And oftentimes after I express it, I'll cry. And it feels so cathartic for me to express in that way and to really deeply feel the subtleties of sadness, the subtleties of the tears, right? And find peace in it, knowing that I have everything that I need. Yeah, so learning to express as a grown man has been different, and leaning into fear of, the fear for me in it is the fear of being rejected, which you alluded to earlier, Brandon. And rejection has played a big role in my life as to discerning what I do and do not choose. And if I had a high probability of being rejected, I wouldn't choose it unless I was under the influence or impaired by drugs and alcohol. Then my authentic self, or what I knew it to be, would surface. So finding safe places to express has been a huge part for me. Men's groups that I facilitate, that I'm held in, are really deeply impactful. Because what I feel that does in a group setting like this is it shares the load and creates more balance and harmony, right? So if somebody's feeling heavy and the 8 other men are feeling a little bit lighter, they'll all share a little bit of their light and take on a little bit of the heaviness, right? Not in a way of caretaking, but in a way of service. And it's an important distinction because when we caretake, often it can be shadowy. But if we're sharing it, as we spoke to earlier before this call started, Tony, it really is deeply impactful when we can just hold the space, right? And create a little space for it to be seen and for it to be felt, right? And I feel complete with that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kirby. For me, I still struggle with expressing anger. That's a big one for me. I learned to suppress it for so long and it wasn't okay. But back to what I was saying before, like I would go, there's 0 or 100. So there's either no expression or I'm raging mad and outwardly expressing that in, to your point, drinking, it might turn into a, yeah, woo, like those expressions are coming out and it's transmuting itself from anger into joy and camaraderie. And so it's fluid. It's allowed to be at that point because I'm drinking or using drugs. I'm more accepted to be myself because I can write it off as, oh, I'm messed up. And everyone celebrates that because they're also messed up and they're less judgmental. And so it's this whole thing of like, I'm allowed to be this way because of the substances that I'm on. Whereas how raw and vulnerable you are without it, it's like any little squeak of a mouse and you're afraid it's going to get snatched, right? So, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But that learning how to express myself in healthy manners is definitely a process for me. I've always, I wouldn't say always, but I've been pretty good at expressing sadness. I'm okay with that. And more so as time goes on, as I express sadness. And it also goes to show who I spend my time with because they allow that sadness and they fully look to me in that sadness and they don't judge and they don't tell me, stop crying, stop being who you are, stop being human, right? That's not said to me anymore. It's actually celebrated, the emotions that are coming out. Oh yeah. And it gives permission to somebody else sitting in the rooms with me to do the same. Okay. I just saw him talk and he's standing proud and talking powerfully about one thing. And then he's also sad and he's breaking down. He's crying openly and the tears are flowing down his face. And that's a man. That's what a man should be. And so I'm really proud of letting those emotions out. And I learned to do that in, like I said, in the groups, right? Talking in a group with strangers. It was hard. And then I've been seeing a counselor for years and I've seen many different counselors and some of them were good. Some of them were bad. And the one I have now has been amazing. And she is just opens a container for me to be myself. And she doesn't really have to do much. It's just somewhere safe for me to be myself with non-judgment. And I would say the hardest place, I thought it was those rooms was the hardest place to be myself, but it's in the current relationships in my life, family and friends and partners. And that's been the most challenging place for me to express myself. I would say anger, again, is the hardest one for me. And in my spiritual practice, I've been inadvertently trying not to be angry because, like you said, Kirby, behind the anger is the sadness. It is something else. But I was bypassing that anger and going straight to the sadness, and that anger was still vibrating and living within me. And so that's been a process of like also allowing that out somatically. And in doing that, like just laying on a mat and screaming or punching or just letting it build and explode out of me in a healthy manner is okay. It's okay. It's part of the human experience, and I don't need to hurt anybody. Like, I was afraid that anger gets me hurt from my father or anybody else that's angry. We're usually in a fight as a child, right? That's where anger comes from. Or you're in trouble. Or when I get angry, other people get hurt. And so I'm like, okay, no more anger. And so that one for me is still really tricky. But I'm learning still. It's a process. It's every single day getting up and in every little interaction, deciding what to do with my emotions and being aware of them. And so part of what I do is to try to somatically feel that, like, where does this live in my body, whatever it is. Last night was an example of this, and I spoke to you about it before we sat down to do this podcast, where I was having these frustrating feelings swimming around because I wasn't sure of a certain way I was supposed to feel. And then once I expressed the words out, then it was like, that's what I'm feeling. I named it, and then the tears came, and then the relief. And oftentimes we want the relief and we want the pain and everything to go away without just acknowledging what's actually happening. Be curious, and it doesn't last forever. You know, this too shall pass. Everything does, even the good stuff. It all goes, but life is fluid and emotions are fluid, and yeah, it's just a journey, and I'm still on it, and I'm still trying to be a better man each day. And it's hard. Emotions are hard, especially when you've been told they're not okay. So men's groups help. Talking openly on a podcast helps. And just speaking to other people who will listen and hold me in that space. And so thanks, guys, for being here. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, I think for me is, to be authentically vulnerable with a partner, like I said, my relationships in my life, and just to be, honest about how I'm feeling and not stuff it down. And I still work on that a lot. So I have a partner that's really open and, a really feelings kind of person. So if I can't figure it out, she'll name it for me and we'll kind of go back and forth. But it's been, and that's been my process. Like, I've never ever shared my feelings with anybody that I felt that would reject me. So I just kind of adapted to whatever the situation was. And now I'm really open with that and, trying to figure out what I'm feeling. And the big thing for me is joy, the laughter. I'm trying to have fun. I'm not very big on that. I'm really serious and, I've got structure and I maintain that. And then, I have a hard time letting go and just being free and happy and joyous and laughing. And, I've really been struggling with that for, I guess, my whole recovery process this time too, because, I don't want to fail at what I'm doing because it's very important in how far I've come, and, and I don't want to, I don't know what it is that I just can't feel that excitement, the joy and laughter of being free is really hard for me to, I try different things. I never had any hobbies, I never played sports or anything like that. And, I never had nothing that I had joyfully doing growing up. And, so I'm trying different things to find that. Recently I've done some traveling, which I found very joyous, which, and that was one of the only times in my life I've ever been able just to, in a foreign country where nobody knows me, they're probably not going to see me again, just to be open and be goofy and funny. And, that's been a big thing for me, to just go do stuff like that and really just let loose, basically, but in a safe place and without substance. And because I have no idea what that looked like before this. And it's been really, really good for me to do, just to be a kid again, experience those things I never experienced as a child, playing in playgrounds and, jumping in the ocean and different things like that. Like, everything I did in life was so serious and had a consequence for it. So now it's just kind of letting that be and just being okay with it. And, and like my relationships in my life, because of that, that seriousness and not being able to have fun, they've always kind of struggled. I've never had any exciting things happen. And, now it's way better. And, feeling they're tough, right? I try to name them and place them and why and how. And, I try to lose that stuff now and just kind of feel what's going on. My journey from my head to my heart took like 40 years, and now I finally made it almost down there. It's only 18 inches long, but it's been a lifetime thing. And, once I get there, it's going to be so joyous. I do a lot of work to get there, and I feel happy and stuff like that, but I would like just to be able to feel and be okay and, all that stuff, not worry about what people think or the outcome of it, or, and it's a process, but I am getting there. And, doing stuff like this really helps. The groups, I facilitate a couple of men's groups, and even in there, I'm really serious and I want to be the person that can answer the questions. And, but recently I've been just letting loose and sharing lots and feeling what's going on. And, we got every different kind of walk of life there, different spiritual people, different practices, different groups, Al-Anon, all these different people, and we've all come together and got this one group going. And it's just amazing what's happening in there. And we got vulnerability, people crying, people laughing, and no judgment. It's great. And I've had to do that, and to form that group in order to get that kind of different aspect from everybody, and not just stuck to one program and one different thing. I'm trying a bunch of different things with that, just so I can feel and be okay with it. And it's been a process, but thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Your vulnerability and truth is so very appreciated today. This was a conversation that shows the beauty of men supporting men to be their whole selves. Before we wrap, please take your time to share any final thoughts.
Right away, gratitude comes up. Gratitude to be here, to be sitting with you, Tony, and you, Brandon, in a deep, impactful way that I feel somatically. Yeah, it's really opening for me and brings peace, a sense of peace into me. So yeah, that's certainly there. And Tony, when you were sharing there regarding traveling, I felt the lightness of your expression when you were away. It's like a light bulb went on. It's like it felt really magical in me to feel that happening. So thank you for sharing that. A part coming through for me now in this moment is people who are curious to learn a different way, to lean into the fear. To learn that, there is a way that has a deeper sense of joy and euphoria and peace in the challenge, right? Because the challenge, I don't think it goes away. But I've found peace in challenging circumstances. Not all of them, but I'm dysregulated far less often now than ever before, right? And I'm going through much more challenging things, I would say. So, yeah, curiosity. Get curious about yourself and see what comes up. Ask questions and listen. And there is a path that has more euphoria and bliss. And listen to your heart. The wisdom in our bodies is so vast. It's attuning to it and finding the way to listen to what's happening inside and outside. Thank you so much for hosting and having me here. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Yeah, I think gratitude's a big thing for me right now, and big practice in life. I can't be miserable and angry when I'm in gratitude. And doing this stuff, I feel grateful and hopeful that it can help other people, right? And, I always thought that I had a lot of man traits in my career, growing up in my life, and I've never felt more like a man than being vulnerable in a setting like this. And so that's amazing for me to change that mindset and to, I've unlearned those, you got to be a man if you don't cry and all those stuff I was taught. And, by doing this, I've learned that this is being a man, to be open and vulnerable and cry and share your feelings. And, my partner helps me with that, my spiritual practice and everything I do, and gets me to a point that I can do this kind of stuff. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very honored to be sitting in this space with you guys. I feel it went well, and thank you.
Thanks to both of you, Tony and Kirby. I too am filled with gratitude. There's a lot of pain that we've gone through in our lives, and now sharing your story open and vulnerable for I don't know how many people to see I feel pride right now. I'm proud of where we are and where we have come from. And I feel emotional because I know for myself, I'm lucky to be here. And man, I put the work in. Lots of work. But I'm so grateful for everything in my life. I'm grateful for you, Tony. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Yeah. You as well, Kirby. Thank you so much for being here. Very grateful. And to you, Julia. Couldn't have made this happen without you. So thank you. This podcast is about life after addiction. And the stories that have been told on here are life after addiction. And we are proof that life after addiction is beautiful beyond your wildest imagination. We are the proof. And for anybody out there listening or watching, and you happen to catch a glimpse of this, and you're in active recovery, or you're just starting your recovery journey, just listen to your body and say, what am I feeling? And then express it. Go talk to somebody, or go sit and listen to somebody first if you don't want to talk, and see what they have to say. And then maybe it'll open your heart a little bit. We are all here to help each other. And as men especially, it's men talking about their feelings has not been accepted. And so for us to sit in this group, I feel is quite powerful. And I'm just truly grateful. And I hope that somebody out there listens to this and says, hey, you know what? I could give that a try. I could give that a try. So I think that's it. I feel that was a beautiful session, and I feel pretty complete myself with that.